Right, well, the music stopped over there, so I think we can kick off the afternoon session. I was going to wait another 15 seconds, but the music has stopped, so let's us begin. Thank you everyone so much for coming to the session. I know it's the second last session of the day, and you're probably already filled with lots of great ideas, but we really want to thank you for coming here this afternoon. So today we're going to be talking about creating really fun experiences with WhatsApp specifically, but I'm also going to talk about why it's important to create really fun messaging experiences, how we can engage our customers. So before we get started, my name is Michelle, or Mish. I'm a developer evangelist. I have been doing this for about 10 years now, and it's really, really exciting. So if you are going to take photos or anything of this talk, please feel free to take photos of absolutely anything. If you're going to share it on socials, please tag me. I'd love to see what you think about the talk, and also love to see some of the highlights as well. After the talk, if we have time for questions, we'll take some questions. We probably won't have time though, got lots of really fun content to get through. But if we don't have time for questions, you can find me on pretty much all the social media platforms. Ask me a question. That includes all the people watching on the live stream as well. If you'd like to follow me or ask a question, there you can find me. So I work for a company called Twilio. Who's heard of Twilio? Few people in the room. Keep your hand up if you know it as that company that does SMS. Few people? Yeah, so a lot of people came to Twilio because we are the company. If you need to send an SMS, you use Twilio. We do so much more than that now. And I know today we're mostly going to be talking about the messaging side of things. We do so much more around communications, everything from, yes, still SMS, email, but also now phone calls, AI, voice calling, call centers, all those types of things. Really, really fun platform for doing all kinds of messaging. As you can see from these couple of photos, we have a lot of fun at Twilio. So as I mentioned, I'm a developer evangelist for Twilio. I am from Australia, so I did come all the way over here. I think me and two others who are also from Melbourne, we came the furthest. So thanks so much for having us over here. So that's us in Sydney having a great time. So we do get to have a lot of fun. So what are we going to cover today in this next sort of 55 minutes? So the first thing we're going to talk about is this idea of communication and why communication is so important, and also a little bit about messaging as well along the way. We're going to look at the evolution of messaging. Messaging has changed a lot over the many, many years, and I've noticed a little bit of a trend in some of these talks that we're seeing is a lot of people going back to the history of whatever they're talking about. So Eli did a talk on the history of data storage. Richard's keynote this morning went through some history of AI, and it really just helps set the scene of how we got here and why people think certain platforms and channels are really important. So we're going to go through just a little touch on the history of messaging. Then I'm going to talk about business messaging and why companies are wanting to look at business messaging and being able to communicate with their customers in this way. I'm going to talk about WhatsApp messaging. That's the main bulk of today, and we're going to see it in action. So pull one out to the demo, peoples, because we are going to do some live code and see it all hopefully happening live today. And then along the way, I'll probably sprinkle in some of my thoughts on what I think the future holds for this type of communication platform and the way that we actually engage people. All right, so first of all, let's go back a little bit further, back to why we communicate in the first place. Like, why is communication such an important thing? Now, communication is an important thing, and it's something we've done literally for basically since humans were alive, right? So stories, we tell stories, we write our information down, and the reason for doing that is so we can communicate and pass on information to the next generation. Now, we often do that through things like narrative and prose, because if I tell you a story that has a beginning, a middle, an end, there's some exciting thing that happens to a character, you're probably more likely to be engaged and remember that type of information than if I just gave you a bunch of facts, right? So we tell stories because we need to communicate a message. Now, who here has read or written documentation before? Many people? Right. Now, think about that time you read that documentation. Was that a good experience or not? Have a think. Now, the reason if you had a good experience with that documentation is it was because it was clear. It was understandable what the thing was that you were supposed to do with it and what you were trying to get to an outcome with. If it was clear, it was understandable in the way you actually implemented something. Now, if you had a bad experience with that documentation, it was probably because it wasn't clear, right? So it's really important that we communicate a message clearly, because if we don't, the information doesn't get passed along. Now, if we don't remember some bedtime story from when we were 5 years old, that's probably not going to be the end of the world, right? But if we have bad experiences with communication when it comes to things like documentation and how to implement something, we're either going to implement it wrong, or we're just going to go, too hard bucket, let's just not worry about even using that thing because the documentation is horrible. Has anyone ever, and you don't have to put your hand up for this one, but think about a time if you've ever decided not to use something because the documentation was horrible, right? So communication is really important because we need to get across that message. And the way we communicate has changed over the many, many years. So we used to communicate all our information pretty much through the written word, whether it was, back in the day through manuscripts, now through books, and now through these wonderful things that we probably all have in our pocket today, which is a phone. And we use this to communicate. And because the platform and the way in which we're communicating has changed, now it's in this phone, it means the style of communication has changed dramatically too. So think about when phones first became a thing, we all had to do the text messages and you had to use the keyboard and tap through till you wanted the H and the E and the other things, and you learnt really quickly what the sequences were. And then we had speed texting, and then we got more messaging. We were able to have more characters. And every time something on the phone has changed, the way we communicate has changed as well. Now we can use emojis. Yay, fun, we have emojis. So every time something within our communication history has changed, the way in which we communicate has slightly changed as well. And it's important that we keep up with the way that those communications patterns change, because if we're not meeting people where they're at, they're not going to read the thing or do the thing that we want them to do. So now a lot of documentation, going back to developer documentation, now we see a lot of emojis in documentation too now, right? And it's very normal. And then we see emojis even in pull requests and things. And some people decide whether they're going to contribute to an open source project because, yay, this project uses emojis on their pull requests, right? So communication kind of brings together people and has like a culture and a language surrounding it, right? So how has this actually changed? I've kind of just given you a bit of an overview of kind of why it's important, but what is the actual history here? And we're talking about like digital communication here. So in 1992, the very, very first text message in the world was sent. It was by a bunch, I think it was British scientists or British engineers, and it was the end of 92, to be fair, and it was literally one message that said, "Merry Christmas." And that was it. Very short, very simple, Merry Christmas. And then a reply came the next day. Now, I don't know if the reply came the next day because the technology hadn't quite caught up and it took ages for the message to get there, but the reply came the next day. So we were able to send an SMS, send a short message service, and get a reply back. Yes, it was the next day, but we were able to get a reply back. Then in 2002, the phone messaging game changed. Now we have this great thing called MMS, multimedia messaging service, right? Now we can send things like photos and videos and GIFs. So now we don't just send a Merry Christmas, we send a GIF of a Merry Christmas with, I don't know, the Grinch or something, right? Now we don't say, "Hey mum, yes, I'm okay." Now we send a selfie of wherever we're at, with our friend or our person or whatever it happens to be, right? We're able to send short messages or short multimedia messages now as well. So that kind of changed the game again. Then in 2008, this new thing came out called RCS, which is Rich Communication Services. So now we're able to do all these really, really great things, like not just send through, a standard image or a standard GIF. Now we can send through things like when we send a URL, it comes up as an embedded little preview of what the website looks like. Now we can send a suggested reply. Now, this feels like it was really long ago that this actually came out, but in reality, it wasn't really implemented much until it came to Android in 2018, like literally a whole decade later. So for those of you who have Android phones, you would probably experience some of this. And then iPhone came to the party in 2014. So now, theoretically, most of the population should be able to receive these RCS messages, these rich communication services messages, right? So both Android and Apple have it. And then last year for Twilio, we announced that our APIs can now use and utilize RCS. So we can now build messaging that is a bit more exciting and a bit more awesome, because now you can send things like your embedded URLs and things like that. Now, I will say that even though we made it available last year, in different countries, it's not widely available yet. So I'm from Australia, where it's not quite available in Australia yet, and part of that is because even though RCS is available on both Android and iPhone, not all services provide it in all countries. So I'm from Australia, I've got an Android, I'm on a network called Telstra, and all those things line up that I can use RCS, which is really cool. But people on iPhone in Australia can't. I have no idea why exactly that is, but it's just different providers and different platforms not making it available to every single person yet. So if you are going to build with this stuff, have a look at the country that you are sending out your communications to and see what kind of channel and platform they're actually utilizing, so that you actually are getting the most out of the messaging you send. All right. So why does all this matter? Why is it important to be able to know the types of channels that are available and the types of things that are available? Now, one of the reasons that this is becoming so much more prominent and why we're talking about messaging today as opposed to something like email is because emails are getting super, super boring, but also how many people actually read every single one of their emails that come through their inbox? Oh, you do. Well, you do. Is this like work email or like personal email, right? So think about the amount of spam that you get and the amount of marketing emails to get. So my husband literally created an email address. He's like, I don't even know how it was available, but it was available on Gmail, and it's all the spam goes here at gmail.com. And that's the one he gives out to all the marketing people. Because he's like, okay, well, most of the time we have to use our email to sign up to different services, right? But then they use that to send us random emails. And how often are we getting random emails? Most of the time when I open up my spam inbox or my just personal email, the general one where all the spam goes to, I'm highlighting most of the emails and deleting them. And the ones that I'm reading are only ones that I'm there's one called What's on Melbourne, which tells you all the fun things that are happening in Melbourne. I'm I want to know what's happening this weekend. So it's very, very specific emails now that people are reading. And this is literally one of the emails that came through the other day from a company. It was just they hadn't even bothered to format it. It's just that's just how it came up in HTML. And things can get really, really boring. So if we're seeing a whole bunch of emails always coming through our inbox, people aren't engaging with them. And it's become a bit of a flood, right? So when we're looking at something like RCS, it's a little bit different. So this is what RCS messaging looks like. And the great thing about RCS messaging versus something okay, because some people talk to me and go, okay, it's great that we have all these messaging services available, Mish, but most people are just want to we want to build an app so that we can send in-app notifications. Great, now you want every single one of your customers to download an app. So how many times have someone or a company you engage with, oh, we've now got an app, so now you have to download that app to be able to get all the things, right? Whereas with RCS, because it comes in natively, you don't need another app. Just get rid of the apps, people. I don't need 500 apps on my phone. So now it all comes through natively. So in Google, that's messaging. I think iPhone's called, is it Apple Messenger or iMessenger? iMessenger, I think, is the one. I'm an Android person, not a Google, an Apple person. So this is what it looks like. So it comes in here. We can see up the top is the RCS message. So it comes in that we can see there's a branded message. So you can see right there, right? And so the reason this is becoming really different or really something that businesses are looking at is because the conversion rates for messaging are so much higher than email because it's way more engaging. So if we have a look at the open rate for a text message, if someone gets a text message or an RCS, just something on your phone in the native messaging app, people are 98% likely to actually open that text message. So of 100 messages you send, 98% of them are going to get opened. Now compare that to something like email. Email, for a good email campaign, if you're doing good for an email campaign, you'll get an open rate of about 30%, right? So that is way, way higher for text messaging. Now, if we have a look at the click-through rate on text messages is around about 30%. That means of the 98 people who are opening the the text message, about 30% of those are actually clicking on the link, right, that's in the text message. Now, if you compare a click-through rate for email, again, a good campaign, so remember, a good campaign is about 30% open rate. So of that 30%, only about 1 to 3% actually clicking on any link in an email. So most emails are just not even being looked at. Even the ones that are being looked at, the rate of people actually clicking through is very, very low, right? And then finally, people actually are saying to their consumer or to their brands that they want to consume content through text messaging. They're like, I don't want to have to go to my emails. I don't want to have to search through everything and find the thing and read this gigantic long thing or see this huge template that doesn't show up if I don't have proper Wi-Fi. I just want to see short messages that have information that is relevant to me. That's what people want these days. And consumers are saying they want to be reached out that way. And now if we have a look at is this actually happening in the world? People are saying, okay, people want text messages. And yes, text messages are being opened, but are many of them actually being sent? We know there's hundreds and thousands of emails being sent, right? Which is why the open rate is kind of low, because there's literally thousands of them. But when it comes to messaging, that's the number of text messages sent every single day from businesses. This isn't me sending you a personal message and be like, hey, how's it going? Let's catch up for coffee, right? This is 6 billion messages being sent by businesses to their customers every single day around the world. So that's a lot, right? Which means people are starting to jump on this train and get excited. But one of the problems with the fact that there are 6 billion being sent every single day is they're starting to fall into the email trap at the moment, which is a lot of the messages, yes, they're now short. These are actual screenshots of literal messages that have come through my inbox. So they're a lot shorter, which is great, so I can consume the information really quickly. You can see most of them here. This isn't RCS because most of them aren't showing up the hyperlinks and things like that. RCS is, as I said, isn't a big thing in Australia, so I haven't got it yet. But again, the problem is it's very uninspiring. It's kind of boring. There's a couple in there that have some emojis, and I'm like, oh, emojis, this is cool. Like, they're doing a little bit different, right? But it's all the same boring stuff, which was the same problem that I was finding with email, right? You get every single email, and that's why a lot of the email brands, all the companies are like trying to get you to fill out their surveys to tell us, okay, what gender are you and what age group do you fall in, and do you have children, do you have a spouse? Because they're trying to build a profile of you to try and send you stuff that's relevant. But realistically, they have all the data in the world on us. They're just not using it correctly. But if we look at these again, they're super uninspiring. So maybe that one in the middle about Final Fantasy 15 is out. I would have been like, heck yeah, putting that in my calendar. Definitely going to that launch. The Afterpay sale, new arrivals from, I don't know what company that is, but t-shirts, shorts, and polos. If they knew anything about me, which they do because they have so much data on me, they know I do not need any more t-shirts, shorts, and polos. But if that's from Ralph Lauren or whatever, they have so many other things that they could potentially show me if they use the data correctly. Let's have a look at another. The one right up the top, it says, oh no, the TLW, which is the Wardlife, it's like a gym clothing. Mystery boxes are almost gone. Now, if they knew anything about me, which they do because they have lots of data on me, they would know I hate mystery boxes. I just want to pay for a thing and know what I'm getting. I don't want some random mystery box filled with a bunch of things that I do not need, right? So the problem here, as they're saying, is that yes, lots of messages are going out every day, but they're not personalized. Okay, maybe a couple of them are personalized because they say my name, right? That's kind of personalized in a sense. It's like, hi, Mish. What people want is they want individualized. And all of these companies have so much data on us, right? We're spending lots of money. We're doing the things. We're visiting their websites. They have this data, so they should be using it to send out messaging that is a little bit more engaging and a little bit more, not just personalized, but individualized. Now let's have a quick look at RCS versus SMS, because I'm kind of going on a little bit about business messaging. And as I said, most companies are sending out SMS at the moment, and we're starting to see RCS now come in, that more and more regions around the world are making available to more and more customers. But the numbers for RCS, again, the engagement is so much higher than SMS because it's exciting. So we're seeing this is some research that Twilio did. There's another research paper that I think it was Google, they did. They were finding up to a 30% increase in click-through rate. So I went the more conservative number and said it's about a 12% increase in click-through rate for an RCS message versus a text message. Conversion rates, again, higher for RCS. And again, we've seen, some companies have seen up to 40% conversion rates on this. And average order value too. So by showing people something that is individualized to them and showing them information and images and previews, they're more likely to not just place the order, but spend more money. That's what people want, right? They want their customers to spend more money with them. So here's what some of them really look like again. So coming back to this. So this is an RCS message, and this is one we built for Twill Transit, which is a fictional company that does transport. So we just built this for a demo. But we can see up here we've got these carousels, these cards we call them, and we can see that we've got QR codes coming through. I'll pause on each one of these so we can see it a little bit better. We can see we've got quick links that go to things like Google and other things as well. So we call these time-saving links. So I'll go through a little bit slower so we can actually see each one. But the first thing people are noticing with things like RCS is branded messaging. And this is really, really important because as text messaging becomes more of a channel that people are using, that means scammers are seeing it as a way to scam people. Now, most of us in the room have probably received a scam message from a bank or an insurance company or a post office saying, your parcel's ready to be delivered, but we can't verify who you are. Please click here and verify all your details. And you're like, no. Well, at least us in the room are usually no, right? But people have been scammed literally billions of dollars because of messages coming through that are claiming to be from one place when they're not, right? So having this trusted branding coming through is really, really important. And this is something you set up with Google or Apple. You go and verify yourself just like you would with Meta, which I'll come back to in a second, right? So this is what it looks like for WhatsApp. Now, WhatsApp have the verified tick up the top. So if you're a business and you want to send messages through WhatsApp, which we're going to have a look at today, you have to verify with Meta to actually be able to send those messages. So you get the tick. So this is a literal screenshot that I took of an exact FedEx message that came through me, and this is their profile. So I know when this message comes through from FedEx with a tracking number and it's got their branded tick, I know it's actually from FedEx and it's safe to click on that link. Right? This is really important because people are becoming more and more skeptical. They're not clicking on links, and that's part of the reason why the click-through rate's gone down as well, is people aren't clicking on links because they're worried about spam. Whereas if you can verify yourself and verify the company and what you're trying to do, you're more likely to get what you want. We can see here we've got these richer media, so it's not just sending an MMS now. We can see we've got this one here is it's got a card, then it's got a little bit of information about what it is, and then it's got what we call these suggested replies. So how was your experience? Average, great, poor, those kinds of things. So these suggested replies down the bottom here help, right? You can see how this is really useful now too. So we're seeing doctors' practices and dentist practices and medical practices and things like that, sending out things like, hey, your appointment reminder is, you've got an appointment tomorrow. Click here. Are you coming? Yes, no. Yes, no, or click to call us, right? So these suggested replies help get the action that you're trying to get out of it. We can see we've got QR codes as well. So imagine getting a text message for a great conference like NDC Copenhagen, being like, hey, here's a link to a great conference we have coming up. If you click and buy now, you'll get 50% off or whatever, and you click and you buy your ticket. And instead of having to search through all your emails, like this morning I got here and they're like, where's your QR code? I'm like, it's on my work email. Can't access that on my phone. Whereas if I can get the text message with the QR code, I can just pop it up there and go, yes, I'm here. Now, I also have these great things down the bottom called time-saving actions as well. So things like we can click and go to Google Maps. We can click and add something to our wallet. Like, has anyone ever done one for an airline? You can get these like messages to your phone now saying, yes, you're all checked in. Click here to add your boarding pass to your Apple Wallet or Samsung Wallet, right? There's lots of great time-saving actions that people could do. And then these rich contards, it should be rich contents. We can see these little cards here. So we got like an image, we get a link or a button that we can basically put whatever we want there. We can send it to a URL, we could send it to a time-saving action like Google, and a little description there as well. So this is like what it might look like on WhatsApp. So this is something we built for our Twilio coffee. You can see we can do things like lists and things as well. So if I click into that list, it just shows like a list where we can go through and choose what kind of coffee we want, right? So here's another one we did. We got URL previews. So when you've got a link, it just gives you like a little URL. Here, that one's going to GitHub. So that's really fun too. Now, why am I talking about all this again, right? We're saying like communication's important because you want to get across your message. But at the end of the day, people want to get across their message so that the person they're sending the message to does something for them. They're going to buy the ticket to NDC. They're going to confirm the doctor's appointment. They're going to buy the ticket to a boarding pass or whatever. They're going to click and purchase things from the store. The reason people are sending all these things is because they want an action, a call to action. They want people to do something. So if you can make things exciting, fun, I don't have to scroll through a million things to try and work out what you're trying to offer me. It's just nice little bite-sized snippets I can scroll and pick. If you make things fun, exciting, and easy, you're more likely to get that desired action that you want, and much faster as well. So you're more likely to sell tickets, you're more likely to sell clothing, whatever it is you're trying to sell, you're more likely to get appointments confirmed and things like that, right? You're more likely to get an action. So let's see some of this in action today. So if any of you have been following me on social media for a little while, you've seen some fun posts that we've been doing like this. So these are ones that we've done at a few events. So we've got Programmable here, her tech circle, API days. And we built this as a really fun way to show off, to show off the Twilio API, because we're using the Twilio API to actually send the messages, but to show that the whole point of this is that you can build almost whatever you want. So in this situation, we've built a WhatsApp, kind of like a chatbot, but it's just you send a photo and you're going to get back an image that is turned your photo into like a fun anime style image of you, and it's also added some branding around it as well. Now we can see like here's one from Programmable, here's one from her tech circle, here's one from API days as well. And the idea of this is, yes, to show off what we're doing, but also so that when people share it on social media and things like that, it becomes a little bit of branding, not just for us, but for the conference as well. So here's like some LinkedIn posts that people put up like, hey, I always like when people put the two together. They put the original image and then the anime generated one as well next to it. But it becomes a fun way for people to share images, to talk about the conference, to show like capabilities of AI or whatever you want to do, right? And then once you've done that as well, you can even build like more fun things on top of it too. So here's one, and again, I built all this for like the activations we do, but once you've taken the photo, you can now create like a fun carousel and show it up on a screen. So now we get people taking their photos and sending their images in, then they come and stand at their booth and go, ha, there's my image. Hey, look what I made. Hey, you should make it too, right? And then it becomes this fun experience for people to have. So let's actually see how to build something like that and how to go about it. So let me pull up my code. Cool, we can all see that, great, hopefully. Alrighty, so what we've got here is I've created a server file, and this is the main file for how this activation or experience works, right? So the first thing we're going to need is Twilio, because we are using Twilio to send these messages. So we've got require Twilio there, and we're passing in our information from my .m file, and I'm sharing all this code with you afterwards too, so you don't have to take all the photos and screenshots. It's It's out there, so I'll send it to you afterwards or put up a QR code. We can see we're passing in all our environment variables. So we've got our Twilio account, SSID, we've got our auth token, and in this instance, I'm using OpenAI. So someone came up to me at one of the last conferences and was like, wow, Twilio does image generation. I was like, no, we don't do the image generation. Again, it's just showing you that whatever you want to build, whether you want to build a chatbot, whether you want to build out a transit application, whether you want to build out some fun ways to go shopping or whatever, you can build whatever you want and use Twilio as a means to actually send that channel over. So in this instance, I'm using OpenAI for the image generation. And one of the main reasons for that is because we actually have API keys for OpenAI, but you could use anything. You could use Gemini, you could use any of the open source ones, you could use a locally hosted model, but all this at the moment is using OpenAI. So we're going to require OpenAI and also be able to upload images to OpenAI so we can transform them. So here we've just put a little timeout function just to stop everything from hanging. So sometimes if we're on slow internet or something, or something might be down, we're just giving a little bit extra time to actually be able to upload and download images as well, so we don't get a timeout operation there. And then this is where the main part happens here. So first of all, we are requiring that we can actually download the media. So the way WhatsApp works is when you send an image to WhatsApp, it's like temporarily hosted on a URL somewhere in the cloud, right? So to be able to do anything like that, we actually need to be able to download that image and then be able to send it again over to, in this case, to OpenAI. So that's what we're doing there. We're also requiring Sharp. So in this instance, and we'll talk about it a little bit when we get further down, but the original, so I built most of this, but the original iteration of this application that was built by one of my colleagues, I was noticing that when the image was coming back and being sent to the phone, that the mask around it, so like the branding around it, would slightly change, and it wasn't always exactly the same. And I'm like, what's going on? And I looked through the code and realized that that nice frame that essentially that I had built was being sent to OpenAI, and OpenAI was transforming that on top of the image once it would kind of like made the image. And I was like, okay, there's two problems with that. One is we're using more tokens because I don't need OpenAI to transform something that I've already made. And two, because OpenAI is non-deterministic, it doesn't just put the image on top, it tries to recreate the whole mask. So I was like, okay, surely there's a better way to do this that doesn't require OpenAI to do the thing. So I had a good look around on the internet and found this great Sharp library. There's basically an image transformer. So it can take two images and put them together. It can put them together by putting one on top of the other. It can like overlay them and like blend the layers as well. But basically what I'm trying to get at here is anyone who's building anything, don't just go throwing AI at absolutely everything. Like, you don't need AI for absolutely everything. In this case, AI was ruining the images because it is non-deterministic. So I decided to use something that wasn't to AI for that part. So have a think about when you're building things if you actually need the AI part of it. All right, so here's the main webhook where all the main like WhatsApp things happen, right? So first of all, we are going to use a TWIML. So TWIML is Twilio markup language, which tells a program how it's actually going to interpret what is coming through from Twilio. So in this instance, we're getting messages, responses back. We want to be able to send or receive or upload, download. And then we're also logging things into the console so that I can see what's actually happening. Like if we get an error or something, I want to be able to see where the error is actually happening. Now what we've got here is an if statement. So this basically iterates on whenever the server receives a ping. In this instance, we want it to actually check to see if it's an image. So if it is an image, so if a user has sent through an image, we want to actually grab the message SID and the URL. And we need those two things because we need to be able to, once we've finished, we need to be able to send the image back to the same person, rather than cross-referencing. If we've got like everyone in the room sends an image, I want to be able to send your image back to you, not over to this way, right? We want to be able to grab those things. I'm also logging some information in a JSON, so I'll show you what I'm doing with that later, but that's just very temporarily logged there. We've got a TWIML message here. So TWIML, again, Twilio markup saying TWIML to treat this as a message. So we're going to send this thing here to the user. So once the message comes through and is accepted, a message goes back to the user saying, your image is being processed. We'll send you a message we'll send your image when it's ready. Now you don't need that. That's for user experience, right? Like if I send an image, I want to know what's actually happening. Like is the thing happening? Did I get an error? What's going on here? And again, we're logging things in the console so we can actually see at what point, if we do get an error, at what point did we get an error there? All right, so then we got our try here. So basically, if we can't get it, let's just try it again. Then we've got our image here. So now we need to make sure that we actually download the exact media that's coming through from the internet. And then again, we're just logging in the console, being like, yes, the media actually did get downloaded here. Then again, if we don't get something, we're returning that there. So we're logging things in the console so we know if there's any errors. Now this is an interesting part. So I have specifically commented this out because we don't need this for this instance. But say for an example, you wanted to go use this, and people have asked this, which is why I put this in there, because this is an open source repo, you can go use it. But people are saying like, oh, well, what if I wanted to use this for a corporate offsite or a birthday party or something like that, where I want to essentially save all the images as well, like the original images that are coming through. So I don't have to send out a OneDrive or a Google Drive link afterwards and get the images, right? Now, only do this if this is something that's like a personal project, or like the people who you are with have all basically given their permission, right? So in this instance, I'm not taking any of your, the original images you sent. I don't need that, but also from a privacy point of view, I don't need that either. Don't need to deal with that. But if you are going to use this for a personal project and you want to keep those original images, comment out those couple lines, or those few lines, and you'll get those original images. The next bit is kind of important. So this is the prompt that is telling OpenAI what to actually do with the image once it goes up to the OpenAI server. So you can see here I've got a prompt, and it's create a Joseph Moe anime style image of the personal persons in the photo. Now Joseph Moe anime style is a particular type of anime style. So I got some nice comments on mine being like, wow, your anime style is so cool and so like unique, and all the images are coming back the same. I'm like, yes, that's because if you just write create an anime image, that's like saying create a cartoon, right? There's lots of different styles of cartoons. There's lots of different styles of anime. So I picked a particular anime style. I know you can see once, well, you might have seen in the preview, but you'll see it again in a minute, is that it's very different to say like your Studio Ghibli style. It's very different to manga style. It's very different to like the Soden Jump style. So this is the style that I've picked because I really enjoy it. Now, I put a few other things in the prompt, and once you start reading it, if you've done any kind of like prompt engineering or anything like that, you'll start noticing that some of these have gone in there because there has been an issue where, don't add any new person in the original image. Sometimes it does still. Again, it's AI, it's non-deterministic. It's not going to take the prompt exactly every single time. But you can do as much as you want to try and massage the final image. So again, don't add text in the image if it's not there. I did this one because I was noticing that, some people, I don't know what it is. I think it's a Gen Z thing. They take the photo and they like just show the top half of their face, and that's like kind of it. Or they'll take one and show like, so some of the images were coming back with like lots of white space either above and below. So I tried to get rid of that with prompt. Don't add any extra objects. That was an interesting one. I said, don't add objects because you don't need objects in the image. And then there was a a picture of me and a person was sitting at a table, and it removed everything, so it looked like we're floating. So I was like, well, we don't want that, do we? So let's put only remove the objects if the person is, if it's not something the person is wearing, holding, or interacting with. And there's an example there as well. AI likes examples. So if you give it an example, like, for example, if the person is sitting in a chair, keep the chair there. And if there's multiple people in the photo, make sure to try and include all of them in the image. Now, again, it is AI. It is non-deterministic. Sometimes not all these things work out, but I think I've done a pretty good job so far of making it fairly good nearly all the time. All right, so Then we've just got some things we're doing with the image here. So we're going to make sure that we actually get the image. We want it to be an actual, like a JPEG there. We can see that we can also use PNGs and WEPs if we need to, although they mostly come back as a JPEG as well. And then if it's not a supported media type. So that's the types of images that are going in. So someone was like at an event, and they're like, I really want to do this, but I don't want my face in it. Like, I don't want to send my face up to OpenAI. I was like, well, just download something off the internet. So they downloaded like a Mr. Bean picture, and I think it was like a PNG, and like worked totally fine. So that's got the media types in it there. And again, it's just like this is part of the OpenAI image model, is that you have to like specify the types of images that you need and then the extensions of them there. So I've done that there. And then we're like making sure that once we send it up to OpenAI, this is what we actually want to use. So I played around. Actually, the original version of this used the 4.0 mini or 4.0 mini, and it did a pretty good job, but it was sometimes it looked a little bit like a not quite exactly anime. It might have been like more like a kid's drawing. We got a lot more errors coming back too. So we got errors from a number of things. So firstly, we would get errors if like it sent a landscape image. So say I just did a photo here, and I had to put in the prompt, make it vertical. It doesn't matter what the image is, like always make it vertical, always give it this orientation. And if it did come back in landscape, it meant that the sharp image, like the sharp library, when I was trying to add the overlay on top, they didn't match the dimensions, so it would throw an error. Another error I would get is somebody sent a photo of their dog in a bed, and it was a black dog in a black bed, so it looked like there was nothing there. And so OpenAI goes, it can't detect a person or a face, so error. And the other one I would get is if somebody just sent a photo of an object, like a chair, be like, can't detect person. With the newer model, so the specific OpenAI image models now allow you to put the size in. So I'm now able to have those size constraints, which is why I didn't have to put in the prompt, make it vertical, make sure it's always vertical. So it allows you to do the size, and also this image model, 1.5, does pretty good on most things. So it'll be like, oh yeah, I can pick out a dog versus a bed. And then I tried to send an image of a puddle just to see like what it would do. And it sent back 2 people fishing. So it goes, well, water, fishing, like, I don't know, right? And I did play around with the one, I tried them all. So I tried the 1, the 1.5, the 2, and the 2.5. The reason I chose the 1.5 is because it gave the style that I really liked, but also had a decent time to give it back. So the 2.5 looked way too hyper realistic for anime, and also took a long time to actually generate the image and then get the image back. So I found the 1.5 was like kind of the model I want. But basically the reason I'm saying all this is when you're going to go out and use AI and you're looking for AI models to utilize, try different ones out and see the types of responses that you're getting before you just go, I want to use that model because everyone says I should use that model. Or I'm going to use 2.5 because it's the latest model and it's supposed to be the best. You might not necessarily need that model, right? So as Richard was saying in the keynote this morning, one of the reasons GitHub Copilot was so successful is because it took all the OpenAI LLMs that they had built at the time and restricted it and said, you're just doing coding. You're not doing everything else, right? So go and try things out before you go and settle on something. That's the moral of that story there. All right, now we've got some responses coming back. We're saving the image on the computer to make sure that it actually goes back. So if something goes wrong, we can get it back there. So we're going to save the generated image first, and then we're going to add the sharp, or using sharp, add the mask on top of it as well. So I'm going to add it over the top of the image. So we can see here I've got blend over. So add it on top. So if you wanted to like multiply, you can like smush them together. If you wanted to add it underneath, you can do all those types of things as well. And again, so this is going to send it back as a PNG at the final end, and also got the image path there. Clean up that temporary image because we don't need the temporary image anymore on the server. And then we want to send back a WhatsApp message with the actual image. Now, again, as I said, the way WhatsApp works with images is it hosts a temporary URL of that image. So basically what we're doing here is sending this message. So your new anime style picture is ready. Feel free to share using NDC Copenhagen, well, shortened Copenhagen. And then media URL is going to be the image. Now, the person or the user doesn't see that URL. They just see the image. So when they click on it, it like automatically downloads it. I mean, depending on your settings, you'll see on mine that it will come up all blurry to start with, because my settings I've set to don't download everything, because then every random GIF that someone sends me on WhatsApp is automatically downloaded to my phone. And it takes a lot of space. So I've set it to that. But if you haven't set it to that, you'll get the full image straight away. You won't have to go download it from server. And again, we're logging some information in the console so we can see that the image has been successfully generated. Save a couple of things in our JSON file. I'll show you what that's used for as well. And again, if we've got anything else that comes back, so if the image didn't get generated or if it didn't get sent to the user, send back to the console that the image generation returned no data there. And that can happen again, like if I took a photo of the floor, although with the new model, it might work. So we'll check that out in a minute as well. Then we've got our Twilio message. So basically, it's this is an error message that I created for the user. So because sometimes people are like, oh, I'm not getting a thing back. Or when I was testing it, I'm like, okay, it clearly didn't work because I can see it in the console that it didn't work. But how does the user know it didn't work? So I'm giving them an error message here so they can see like, okay, it didn't get sent. Maybe we'll try. The reason I've put resend the image is because like, you know, as I said, if it was landscape, it would try and put it vertical. But there is actually one other reason, and I didn't actually test this out for this model. So if anyone wants to test it out today, you can. The other reason you would get an error is because you've got part of the image that is copyright. So I had this image, this selfie that I was taking of me when I tried it with the original model. I haven't tried it with this model. And it just wouldn't generate the image. I was like, what is going on? Why is this image not being generated? And I looked at the photo and went, I'm wearing Pikachu on my t-shirt. I reckon it's that. And I went into OpenAI, I tested some things. I'm like, it's absolutely Pikachu. So I tried like different things. So I tried like in the prompt, like, if you see a Pikachu, change it to a popular yellow Pokemon. If you do it in ChatGPT and write a popular yellow Pokemon, it will generate Pikachu for you. Even though if you type in Pikachu, ChatGPT will say, sorry, I can't do that for, they call it safety concerns, but it's really copyright. But everything I tried did not work. So Pikachu, and again, I haven't tried with this model, but Pikachu didn't work. Eevee didn't work. Actually, no, Eevee did work. Squirtle didn't work. I was like, oh, surely Eevee's way more popular than Squirtle, right? Chewbacca didn't work as well. So one of my friends was dressed entirely as Chewbacca for a Halloween, and it wouldn't generate it because it's like, safety, Star Wars, copyright. So yeah, if you are wearing something, maybe the source be with you one, that might work. We'll see how that one goes as well. But if you do get an error back and you think, okay, why is this an error? It literally could be because there's a copyright. Then I've just got this short else message, which is basically, so remember this whole if statement was, if we detect an image, do all these things. If we don't detect an image, do this. So basically it's like if there's no image, just tell the person they need to send a photo so we can create an animate image for them as well. Then we're basically down here just starting up the server. So let's actually see it in action. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually start the server. So start the server, and great. So we're now running on port 3001. So the way Twilio works though, even though I'm running this locally, is Twilio can't send things from local. It needs to be able to read it from the internet somewhere on the cloud, right? So the way I like to do that from a local is by using, does anyone use ngrok? Does anyone here use ngrok? Basically, it's a service that points your local to a temporary hosted URL. So that's it right there, the F932BC. So if you typed that into your browser right now, you would see what is on my local host. So we're going to grab this URL and copy that over. And I'm going to, I've already got localhost running, but so we're going to refresh now that I've got that going. So refresh you. Okay, there we go. So we've got our art dashboard there. I'll show you that in one moment. This is the one here that I wanted to show you. Here we go, the gallery. All right, so we'll just refresh that as well, just because I restarted the server. And let's refresh you. And we'll just take it down a notch so you can see the whole thing. So this is the beautiful little image gallery that we got going here. And this is running on the same URL as what the server is actually going to be producing in one moment. So, okay, so we've got this running. This is cool. This is obviously some images I've already created. So it's taking these directly off my computer. So I've did some before. This was mostly to test, and there's a few people around the conference that decided they wanted to send some photos as well. So you'll see a couple of conference photos pop up there. But how do we actually get it working with Twilio and send out the messages? So the first thing we need to do is go to what we call the Twilio console. So who's actually, a few of you have heard of Twilio. Who's used Twilio? A few people? Okay, cool. So if at the end of this you decide, hey, this is cool, I want to go use it, just go on to Twilio and sign up for a free trial account. It'll give you a free number and some credits, and you can try out exactly what I'm about to show you as well if you'd like to do it yourself. So we can see once we've got an account, we can have multiple sub-accounts here. So I've got a couple here. So I've got my demo account. The DevNet activations one is a shared account. So I'm on this as part of that, which is why you'll see like, hi, Mish. And then the last thing that someone did was Rashab, who's someone on my team, doing some Signal demos. But we're using WhatsApp. And WhatsApp is an interesting one because you'd think it'd be under messaging, but it's actually under senders. So WhatsApp is under senders here. Now, the reason it's under senders is because you've got to go and verify. So as I mentioned before, you can't just go and set up a phone number. So in Twilio, you can just buy a number. But for WhatsApp, you can't just get a number and start sending out WhatsApp messages. You have to go through a verification process with Meta to actually do that. So we've done that for all of these. Now, I'll show you in one moment what you can do if you are just testing things out and obviously don't want to go through the whole Meta process to actually go and verify a number just to go test things out. So I'll show you that in a moment. But the way it works is Twilio can work via multiple different start points essentially, endpoints. Now what we can do is we can say, we can just go and select a service that I've already created on here. We could use a web hook URL, which is what I'm going to put in here. So we're actually using this webhook, and we need /message, and we need to make sure it's in post as well. We have a fallback URL for incoming messages as well if we want to. Then we've also got, we could do like our voice configuration if someone calls a number. And this is just some information on the Meta side for WhatsApp. So this is to show like display name. And I'll show you all this in a moment on my phone. But it just shows like the business name and profile photos and websites and all that kind of thing. So we need to update that so that now it's actually successfully updated, and now I can go and send a message. So I'm going to do that on my phone, and then while the phone is doing that, I'll show you how to do the WhatsApp testing. All right, here we go. So we've got my phone here. So we've got Twilio AI Artist. We've got notifications coming through. So if I click on it, this is what it looks like. Now you can see it has a little like blue tick. That's because this one is like what we use for activation, so we don't need to go and like verify the full tick because that's another process on top. But you can see that what we've done is we've set up a profile, right? We can see it's Twilio AI Artist. That's the number there. We've got some information about Twilio. We've got the privacy policy if we need to go into that. We've got our a URL. You can see we've just put this one in Arts and Entertainment. It's a business account. And a few other bits and pieces there, right? Now, I've written a lot of these messages just so I didn't like spoil what we were going to do. But basically, we can see, like, again, this is just showing that if I send something that's not an image, it's just going to keep sending back the same message as we saw in the server.js file, right? So it's going, can't detect an image, please send any photo, and we'll create a fun anime style image for you. So I can literally just take a selfie right now, and you're going to see me on the screen. All right, I look pretty good. Send that. And it's going to come back and say, okay, now I can actually detect a message if it's working. Let's see if it's working. Yep, there we go. Image is being processed. So we'll come back to that in just one moment. What I did want to show you is the WhatsApp. So if you're sitting here going, again, this looks really cool. I'm going to download your code off GitHub or fork it. And I want to go do WhatsApp, but I don't want to go and verify everything with Meta and go through that whole process. So you can come here where it says try it out and click send a WhatsApp message. So if you come under here, under the console, once it loads, we can see we've got a sandbox here that you can use. So all you do is scan the code on your phone and put in that link, join traffic hurry, and this is like for this account. So this means that I can use this sandbox, right, to send and receive messages. Now, the reason I'm not using the sandbox in the demo is because the sandbox only works for one number at a time, which means once I send the message, if you all want to go and create your photo, which I'm going to show you the link in a minute to do, you won't be able to do it because WhatsApp sandbox only takes in one message coming in or one phone number coming in. All right, so we can see if we go to WhatsApp, we can see I've got my picture back. So we can see there's the original picture. If I click on that, we can see we've got like the fun overlay. We've got NDC Copenhagen. We've got Twilio. It's all looking pretty good. I look pretty decent, I think. So yeah, that's how it works. Now, if we have a quick look at the ngrok. Now, what I like about ngrok is that you can see the traffic coming through, right? So we can see the requests coming through. You can see the gets. We can see the images. We can go and click on and see what's happening. All right, let's jump back to the slides for the last 5 minutes or so. So the way this works, because people like to see how it's actually working in terms of the architecture. So person takes a photo, sends a selfie, and is going to the Twilio API with the WhatsApp gateway. So once it's doing that, it's received by the Twilio API and also by WhatsApp messaging as well. So that's using the Twilio phone number to do that. Now, once we've done that, it sends the message is converted into a HTTP post and then sends back a request to the webhook and the server. So it goes back there. What is it? It's not working now. I just like switched out. There we go. It sends a request back just to make sure they're talking to each other. That's why we saw in the ngrok we were seeing those 200 logs there as well. Then we've got the original image over here. That original image, as we mentioned, it's hosted in the cloud. So we need to use the media download, and there's a little JavaScript file that's in the repo that actually downloads that media, and then we get the response back there. So once we've got the media, we then use OpenAI's API to make the new image. So that's like that fancy like anime style in this instance, right? And then we send it back to our webhook server so we've got the image there. Once we've done that, we use Sharp. So it comes back and we use Sharp to actually put on top of that image, that beautiful image that we've created. So then we get our final image back. Now that final image is still on the cloud. It's not anywhere else. So then so it's statically hosted on the cloud. Now we need to use the Twilio API, and we're going to download that image, and then we're going to send that back via WhatsApp to the person. And then again, once we've got all that kind of working, the webhook working, we can then build other applications as well. So the other one that I briefly built, which is why I was logging some of those like JSON requests, is this. Now this is a dashboard. You can see I've got some failed images. That's when I was using the old model literally just yesterday and I hadn't cleared it out. But basically I'm logging some of this information just so that I can make sure that there's not a whole lot of errors, because the console, it logs information, but especially when people are sending through lots of messages, you can't just scroll back up and see them, right? So it kind of just goes away. So it just helps like make sure that we're not getting any failed images. In this case, we've got a couple because I was testing out some things. And we can also see like where our users are coming from. Now, none of this like is tied to a name, but what I can do is I can select all these then and then send a message. Now, the reason I might want to do that is because, again, I'm hosting this locally, so I can control the token usage. So I might send a message, and I'm going to probably send a message at the end of the day just being like, thanks for creating pictures. It'll be open again tomorrow. It also allows us to randomly pick a winner. So when we do this activations, we pick a winner. We don't know who it is. It just goes to a number, and then they get a number saying, congratulations, you won. Come and visit us at the booth and claim a prize. So you can do fun things like that as well. So as I mentioned, you can all go and try it out. So that's the URL or the code for the WhatsApp. So if you scan that, it will take you directly to WhatsApp, and you can just send a photo, and it should work. I tried my best to like test this out and see how much load it could do, and I got through about 10 images of uploading. Went to a conference, and this lady was like, I really love this artwork style, and uploaded her entire holiday album to this, and it worked fine. So everyone else was still able to use it as well. So she did like 55 images of just herself in like one go. So it should be totally fine on rate limiting there as well. And I'll post this link in the Slack as well. And I know if you're going to be watching this on the recording, it's probably not going to be hosted. So unfortunately, you won't be able to try it out. So you have to catch me at the next conference. The code repo, as I mentioned, because if you want to go and build this yourself, scan that. It'll take you to GitHub where you can try all the different things out and it's all there for you. Now, if you are going to go build and do cool things with Twilio, or you're like, hey, that was cool, but I want to do something completely different, we only just announced and just released our Twilio MCP server and Twilio skills as well. So if you are using like Claude or GitHub Copilot or anything, you've got like MCP access, just install Twilio MCP server, and then you'll be able to like do so many things and build pretty much what you want, right? So to end us off and the takeaways for today, I want you to understand that the first thing you should think about is that trust and branding are no longer just nice to haves on the things that you do. It's now a must have. Like it's the benchmark now for being able to communicate with your users and your customers. So messaging experiences drives desired action. So if you create something really fun and engaging, people are more likely to do the thing you want. And that's, at the end of the day, we all want people to actually do an action from the things that we do. Buy our service, hire us for consulting, go and buy the ticket or buy the products. So think about the types of fun things you could do. The reason I'm doing this is because, I enjoy anime, but it's also something fun. People at conferences have really, really enjoyed it, especially when we run booths and do activations. So think about those kind of fun experiences. Check out that repo. Build something yourself and also take lots of pictures and share them as well. If you are going to share pictures and you like them, come and find me at the end of the day or tomorrow. I've got some scrunchies to give out and I've got some like Twilio pins and stuff as well. So without further ado, there's the resources I mentioned. So all the links to everything I talked about, including the code repo, the link to the WhatsApp, Twilio MCP server, the announcement blog post we did on it as well. And as I mentioned, we don't have time for questions, so I'm around for the rest of the day, today and tomorrow. And if you're watching on the live stream or you think of a message or a question later, feel free to message me on one of the many social media platforms. So thanks for being here today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of NDC Copenhagen.